cold metal beneath her fingers, a legacy reawakening. Mira Bishop let her hydration pack fall and pressed both palms to the moss-covered hull. 28 years of dismissing her grandmother's fantastic tales melted into the turquoise waters surrounding her. The ship, an actual, physical vessel, rested at a 40 tilt, its nose submerged in an unnatural lake that had no business existing in this part of the Australian outback. Her hiking boots sank into the silt as she moved closer, red backpack, dragging her down with each step. "Impossible," she breathed, voice swallowed by the vast silence. Somewhere a desert bird called, its cry stretching across the unearthly water. Mira's fingertips found the worn insignia, matching precisely the one her grandmother had drawn countless times. The design was unmistakable. 3 linked hexagons enclosing a central spiral. Not military, not commercial, not listed in any archive she'd searched during her postgraduate research. Her grandmother, Eliza, wasn't much of an artist except when she drew this ship. It's from beyond the belt, she'd whisper while sketching the same form in her journal. They searched in darkness for 300 years to reach us. Most had dismissed Grandma Eliza as odd after Grandpa's passing. It's all except Mira, who noticed patterns hidden within the old woman's strange numerology. Coordinates she now saw coordinates to this very place. Her archaeology colleagues would keel over laughing if they saw her now. Dr. Bishop, the relentless skeptic who dismantled every pseudoscientific claim of lost technologies, now standing knee-deep in water, touching what looked like a crashed vessel straight from her grandmother's sketches. Mira didn't care. The firm surface under her shaking hands destroyed a lifetime of doubt. Her sat phone chimed with a message. Professor Takahashi, no doubt, was wondering why she'd vanished off-grid during a supposedly routine survey of Aboriginal rock art sites. She ignored the alert and moved toward a hatch. The metal felt strangely warm despite partial submersion. Her engineering sense told her the craft should have long since disintegrated in water, yet its hull remained intact. Only a thin layer of algae hinted at age. "What are you?" she whispered, tracing the seams with an archaeologist's precision. No rivets, no welds. The entire vessel looked molded as a single piece. Impossible by current human standards. The sat phone chimed again, more urgently this time. Mira checked the screen. "Bishop, return immediately. Unauthorized zone, military satellite tracking you. Provide explanation." She muted the device, slipped it away into her waterproof pouch, and made her choice. Whatever this ship was, whatever. Tied it to her grandmother's lifelong obsession, she would document everything before military forces inevitably descended. She activated the wrist camera and resumed the survey. Its documentation log. Dr. Mira Bishop, June 23, 2579. I've discovered an unknown vessel, roughly 18 meters in length. Structure does not match any known ancient or modern engineering. She swallowed hard. It perfectly mirrors drawings my grandmother made throughout my childhood. The hatch bore no handle, no clear entry system. As Mira's palm moved across the surface, searching for activation points, a vibration stirred beneath her skin. A seam appeared, unseen a moment before, and opened with a pneumatic sigh. Air stale, impossibly preserved, breathed outward. "That's not real," she whispered, stepping away. The hatch hadn't opened by accident. It had responded to her. A bird cried again nearer this time. Mira looked toward the distant shore where her primary gear sat with her larger pack. Protocol said she should establish a secure perimeter, document the exterior, and await university or agency backup. Instead, she adjusted her smaller bag and slipped through the open hatch. Inside, dim emergency lights flickered on, soft blue bands illuminating a narrow hallway. The vessel tilted downward at the same angle as its partial submersion, making the descent disorienting. Mira's archaeologist instincts wrestled with her pounding pulse as she moved carefully. The interior was sleek and minimal, with seamless surfaces flowing into one another in ways no human tech could produce. Not military, she noted aloud. No standard parts, no visible controls. Her hands slid along the wall, feeling a strange warmth from the metallic surface. It looked like metal, but its thermal behavior defied everything she knew. The corridor opened into a small chamber with 6 embedded alcoves, maybe sleeping quarters. Each had a simple platform and built-in compartments. Mira studied one carefully, noting dimensions that didn't match human norms. Either the crew was smaller, or their proportions followed a non-human physiology. In the center stood a pedestal console with etched markings. Symbols bordered the markings around the console's circumference looked disturbingly familiar. They matched the decorative patterns Grandma Eliza had doodled endlessly around the edges of her ship sketches. Not random embellishments, Mira realized now, but an actual written language. "Grandma, what were you hiding?" Mira murmured, snapping precise images of each glyph. "How could you possibly have known this?" The console stayed dark, until her camera flash lit up a small rectangular recess. It mirrored the shape of the pendant Mira wore, a farewell gift from her grandmother. "Never take it off," Eliza had insisted, her voice unusually firm. "Promise me." Hand moved to the silver charm at her neck. It had always felt too heavy for its size, with etched patterns that reminded her vaguely of microcircuitry. For 28 years, she'd honored her word. Brushing it off as a sentimental token from a woman whose academic focus leaned toward grounded archaeological theories rather than mystical heirlooms. Out! But now, standing before a console with an identical indentation, the coincidence felt astronomical. Her academic instincts screamed caution about contaminating the untouched site. But her burning curiosity roared louder. Hand shaking, Mira removed the pendant and placed it into the depression. It slid in perfectly. Nothing happened at first. Then a soft vibration began, and the console lit up. Holographic glyphs spilled into the air, shifting and recombining in intricate layers. "Holy!" the words caught as the patterns condensed into legible language. "Identity confirmed. Secondary user, access approved. Welcome, descendant." The floor beneath Mira tilted. She grabbed the console as mechanical sounds echoed around her. Outside, the water surged against the hull while the ship began to reposition. "No, no, no," she whispered, snatching the pendant back. But the console remained lit, the message frozen. The vessel continued waking. Hidden compartments along the walls opened, revealing dormant gear. The ship groaned as systems came alive. After decades of inactivity, Mira sprinted toward the exit, panic outweighing curiosity. The slope felt steeper now, slowing her escape. She burst through the hatch into thigh-deep water just as the ship jolted again. A spotlight struck her, blinding. A loudspeaker barked. "Step away from the restricted object. Remain still." Armed troops lined the shore, all eyes and weapons, locked on her and the vessel. Behind them, black vehicles spilled out, more soldiers in full tactical gear. Professor Takahashi stood at the front, his expression torn between alarm and betrayal. Before Mira could speak, a high-frequency hum rose from the ship. The water around it began boiling as if superheated. The spotlight shifted from Mira to the intensifying activity around the craft. "Get out of the water," someone yelled. Now, she didn't need telling twice. She fought through the water as fast as her legs would go. Behind her, algae peeled away as lights ignited across the hull. The emblem of 3 interlocking hexagons blazed bright blue, casting sharp rays beneath the turquoise lake. A soldier grabbed her arm at the shoreline, yanking her up roughly. "What did you do?" he barked, his face hidden behind dark gear. "Nothing," Mira gasped, her eyes fixed beyond him as the ship lifted slightly from the water. Layers of silt falling away. "I just secured the artifact," a superior officer ordered, waving troops toward the edge. "Initiate containment protocol Zeta." "It's not an artifact," Mira snapped, as they dragged her back from the dot. "Scene. It's operational tech. That's not conventional propulsion. You can't just." A thunderous boom cut her off as a soldier launched a device at the ship. It exploded in a burst of electric blue energy, an EMP of some sort. The vessels. Lights dimmed, then surged brighter than before. Lake churned violently. This was no longer a crash site. The vessel was evolving. Segments submerged till now revealed shapes that defied known mechanics. What had resembled an exotic aircraft was reconfiguring into something far more complex. "Fall back." The commander shouted as vapor exploded from the surface. Troops retreated, dragging Mira toward the convoy. Professor Takahashi intercepted them, stepping between Mira and her armed escorts. "She's a university researcher. Under protected status," he said firmly. "She's my responsibility." The soldier hesitated, then let her go grudgingly. "Keep her secured," he barked, rushing back to the squad. "Mira, what is this?" Takahashi asked, his voice low. "My grandmother knew," Mira answered, clutching the pendant. She knew exactly what it was. "This necklace sits. A key." Takahashi blinked in recognition. "That's your grandmother's necklace? The one you always wore?" "Yes. It interfaces with the ship." "Professor, this tech isn't human. It's the materials, the interface style, the seamless construction. It's all other." A blinding flare rose from the lake, ending the conversation. Water streamed from its shifting structure. As the vessel stabilized 3 meters above the lake's surface, soldiers ducked behind armored transports. Someone shouted for immediate air support. "Your grandmother," Takahashi murmured, eyes wide at the unreal scene. Eliza Bishop served in the Xenorchaeology division before it was shut down. Her theories on non-terrestrial visitation were deemed too radical. "You knew?" Mira turned to him, the sting of betrayal eclipsing her fear. "I knew she was brilliant and cast out for her ideas. I didn't know she had this." He motioned toward the craft suspended in air. Real proof. The ship rotated slowly, like it was scanning its environment. When its front aligned with Mira, it froze. A narrow beam of light, similar to a scanner, swept over her from head to boots. Her pendant grew hot against her chest. The commander shouted orders as troops scrambled to adjust. Rifles trained on the vessel, whatever countermeasures they'd prepared for ancient anomalies, hadn't accounted for living alien machines. "They're going to fire again," Mira said, alarmed. "They don't understand what this is." "Neither do you," Takahashi warned, gripping her arm as she stepped forward. "No, but my grandmother did." Mira tore free, her resolve stronger than caution. She stepped toward the soldiers, hands up. "Wait, don't shoot." Searching for genetic matches. Step back from the perimeter. The commander barely glanced her way, responded to me because of her. She had contact with the ground shivered as the ship released a subsonic pulse. All electronics within a 100-meter radius went dead. Radios, targeting systems, vehicles all fell silent. Only Mira's pendant still glowed faintly with internal light. Darkness fell, lit only by the vessel's pale blue glow. The scanning beam narrowed on Mira, intensifying into a gridded lattice that mapped her in precise detail. "Dr. Bishop," Commander called, his voice stripped of authority. "What the hell is this?" Before Mira could answer, a shaft of light dropped from the craft's underside, anchoring to the ground between the troops and her. Inside the beam, air shimmered and formed into a humanoid figure. The apparition was female, clad in a flight suit, not unlike 21st century aerospace. Uniforms, her face took shape, familiar eyes. A warm smile Mira hadn't seen in years. "Grandma," Mira whispered, taking a step forward, ignoring Takahashi's urgent warning. The projection flickered partially transparent, distorted by digital interference. But the face was undeniably Eliza Bishop, younger by 3 decades than Mira. "Remembered." "Not quite," the figure said, voice matching Eliza's cadence but with layered harmonic undertones. "This interface is modeled on Eliza Bishop, designed for contact with her biological descendants. I am the operational intelligence of this vessel." Mira's logical mind scrambled to catch up, while her emotions spun from the familiar presence. "You're the ship's AI? Using my grandmother's likeness?" "A basic summary," the figure agreed. It smiled exactly like Elisa used to when gently correcting her. The same patient expression she wore when teaching Mira complex ideas as a child. "Eliza Bishop worked with my makers. She selected this form and developed the language framework for future contact with her bloodline." Soldiers still held position, their rifles raised but clearly useless. A pivotal moment. The architects intend to offer guidance before irreversible. "Actions are taken. Guidance or control," the commander demanded. "Your species distinguishes between the two," the projection said. The architects present knowledge, not dominion. The choice to accept or reject it belongs to humanity. Mira's pulse pounded in her ears. Her entire career had revolved around practical archaeology, tools, sites, infrastructure, the solid remains of human innovation. Nothing had prepared her for negotiating first contact with an alien intelligence wearing her grandmother's face. "Why me?" she asked softly. "Why not speak to global leaders directly?" The interface's expression shifted into a familiar Smiley Liza's smile. Governments rise and fall. Political systems shift. Genetic continuity offers stability, Liza. Bishop selected you for your skepticism, your respect for evidence, and your capacity to wonder. She believed you would uphold the integrity of this exchange. Engines rumbled in the distance, more military units arriving uneasily toward the road. "Your forces cannot damage this ship," the interface informed him. "However, escalation may obstruct peaceful diplomatic engagement." Takahashi stepped in. Curiosity overriding caution. "These architects, what do they look like? Can they even exist safely in Earth's biosphere?" "Their biology is not essential to initial engagement," the AI replied. "They communicate through technological proxies until compatibility is confirmed. This vessel functions as that intermediary." Across the horizon, new vehicles approached, heavy equipment trucks by the look of them. The commander muttered into a secondary radio, one of the few still working. The interface turned to Mira. "Time now imposes constraints. A decision is required." "What decision?" Mira asked, exhaustion creeping into her voice. "Whether to initialize the communication protocol. This ship holds vast information about the architects, their society, and their analysis of humanity. As Eliza Bishop's chosen heir, you have the right to authorize release. And if I activate it, information sharing will begin. Your civilization will gain roughly 73 years of scientific progress. You will coordinate initial preparation for the architect's arrival, and if I say no..." The interface's tone remained steady. "This vessel will return to standby mode. The architects will still come, but without contextual data. Contact will follow conventional paths, greatly lowering chances of a positive outcome." The weight of it all pressed against Mira's chest. Just hours ago, she was a respected archaeologist, focused on ancient machinery. Now she stood between humanity and its first confirmed alien contact, because her so-called eccentric grandmother had secretly been Earth's original envoy. "Commander," she called, without looking away from the projection, "I need more time." "Time is diminishing," the interface warned. "This ship's reactivation has triggered passive detection. Systems, security escalation is already underway." Even as it spoke, aircraft came into view, military drones, followed closely by tactical helicopters. "How much information are we talking about?" Mira asked, mentally scanning the implications. "Biology, engineering, sociology, and documented Earth history." Takahashi let out a low breath. "It's more data than all of Earth's current scientific archives combined." "Information exchange must be mutual," the AI added. "The architects request a current understanding of human civilization." The commander stepped closer. "Sharing anything about Earth requires classified review and full governmental control." "A valid concern," the AI said. "However, the architects already possess considerable observational records. What they seek now is interpretive context, not restricted schematics." The thunder of helicopters grew louder. Mira felt her moment of agency slipping away. Her hand closed protectively over the pendant. "If I say yes, then I want clear conditions. Scientific transparency, collaborative oversight with global research institutions, and no sole national claim over access." "These stipulations align with Eliza Bishop's legacy," the interface replied. "This vessel is capable of operating independently from any state actor or authority." The commander scowled. "Dr. Bishop, you're not authorized to make alien treaties." "Actually," Mira said, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice, "the interface claims I'm the only human who currently has that authority. I'm going to use it for everyone. Global benefit, not one nation's security prerogative." She turned to face the Elisa projection. "I'll accept the responsibility, but only on one condition. I want to know exactly what happened to my grandmother. I want the truth, nothing Held back, the projection's face softened into compassion. That data resides within the restricted personal archives. I can unlock them. Mira inhaled deeply, steadying herself. Then do it. The interface gave a nod. A portion of the ship restructured itself, extending a narrow bridge that stretched to where Mira stood. Please proceed to the access chamber, Dr. Bishop, the commander warned. I cannot authorize entry into an alien vessel.
All with respect.
You also can't prevent me, Mira replied, motioning toward the inert weapons.
Act.
And your backup won't. Arrive in time. I'll share everything I find with transparency after I've reviewed it myself. Professor Takahashi stepped beside her. Shh, Mira, allow me to join you. A second researcher would provide valuable perspective. The projection interjected. Entry is limited to genetic heirs. Secondary permissions can be issued once primary initialization is completed. Mira nodded toward her old mentor. Return. Record everything from this side. She turned to the military commander. Please make sure your team doesn't provoke the ship. The first message we send shouldn't be through weapons. Before further protests could build, Mira stepped onto the metallic platform. It vibrated softly beneath her boots, adapting to her steps. The ELIZA projection kept perfect pace beside her, its form gliding in exact unison. Is any part of my grandmother actually inside you? Mira asked, voice low.
Eliza.
Bishop's neural architecture was thoroughly encoded. This avatar uses her patterns for familiarity and dialogue. However, it would not be accurate to say her consciousness still exists. They reached the entry point distinct from the original hatch Mira had explored. This portal opened into a chamber humming with alien systems. Holograms flowed across. Every surface, too fast for her to interpret. Please insert your pendant into the core receptacle, the interface said, indicating a structure similar to the one she'd found outside. Mira removed the necklace, pausing. Will I see the truth about her before making additional choices? Yes. Personal logs are compartmentalized and do not require full activation of mission protocols. Mira placed the pendant carefully into the receptor. Instantly, the room adapted lighting recalibrated to human-friendly brightness. One wall shimmered, reforming into a wide display screen. The interface gestured toward it. Personal log access confirmed. Organized chronologically. Or thematically. Chronologically. Begin with her first contact. When did she find you? The display flickered, resolving into archive video. The timestamp read June 27, 2527, 52 years prior. The screen showed a younger Elisa Bishop in rugged exploration. Gear standing near a partially buried vessel, clearly the same craft, though then entombed in desert sand rather than submerged in water. Begin record, came Eliza's voice. I've found the anomaly flagged in orbital scans. It seems to be some kind of airframe, roughly 70% buried beneath the dunes. The camera swept across the exposed portion. The triple hexagon insignia was already visible, half obscured. Preliminary indicators suggest non-terrestrial construction, Eliza narrated, her tone carefully measured. Material analysis is inconclusive. No isotopic radiation present. No clear seams or points of entry on visible surfaces. Footage advanced as Eliza constructed a small base nearby. She documented each step in detail, clearly operating without institutional backing. No logos or government insignia. This had been a private mission. Day 3, the next clip began. I've cleared about 2 meters along the eastern structure. I've located a probable sensor matrix. When exposed to full sunlight, it momentarily activated, scanned my location, and shut down again. Mira sat frozen as her grandmother's voice played on, charting the first days of discovery and interaction. On day 7, something changed. The ship responded again, this time more directly. A section of the hull opened. An entry point emerged, identical to the one Mira had entered. Inserted the pendant into the receiver. Instantly, the room reacted. Ambient light shifted to a hue more comfortable for human eyes. One wall shimmered, reconfiguring into a high-resolution display. The interface motioned toward it. Personal logs accessible. Would you prefer chronological, sequence, or thematic clustering? Chronological, Mira replied. Start with her first encounter. When did she find your vessel? The screen flickered, then stabilized. A timestamp read, June 27th, 2527, 52 years prior. The video displayed a younger Elisa Bishop, clad in expedition gear, standing before the same ship, then partially entombed in sand rather than hidden beneath water. Log begins, her grandmother's voice narrated calmly. Located the object identified via satellite anomaly, parent aerospace structure of unknown origin, approximately 70% submerged in dune layers. The camera swept across the hull, familiar contours, the three-ringed hexagonal emblem peeking out from sediment. Preliminary analysis suggests non-terrestrial manufacture, Eliza continued, barely masking her awe. Material properties elude standard spectrographic classification. No radiation detected, no obvious seams, ports, or rivets. The footage transitioned as Eliza pitched camp, meticulously documenting her procedures. No visible university logos, no governmental insignia. It was clearly a solo, unsanctioned investigation. Day 3, the next log began. Cleared 2 meters along the eastern surface. Located what may be a sensor module. When exposed to sunlight, it activated, scanned my position then. Deactivated, behavior suggests dormant sentience. Mira sat motionless, mesmerized, as her grandmother's methodical logs unfolded. On the 7th day, the logs showed Eliza crouched before a shifting panel, reacting specifically. To me, she reported, tools function when handled directly but not remotely. Evidence points to a biologically tuned interface, likely biometric or magnetoneural. The logs jumped ahead, revealing Eliza's first interior exploration. Unlike Mira's impulsive entry, her grandmother had spent weeks establishing security parameters, running diagnostics, and testing environmental response. Inside, the vessel's architecture was identical, langled corridors. Smooth alloy walls, scales slightly off from human norms. Day 23, Eliza's voice echoed as she advanced deeper. I've discovered a core chamber. Design accommodates bipedal morphology, but not standard human scale. Ergonomic variance implies alternative evolution. The next sequence showed Eliza reaching out to a central consoler, identical to the one Mira had triggered. As her fingers made contact, the ship surged to life. Multi-layered holograms swirled outward, celestial charts, biological schematics, numeric progressions, all flashing in sync with her heart rate. Incredible, Eliza whispered, as the projections organized into legible displays. It's attempting structured communication. The footage continued, documenting a process of evolving contact. Initially mathematical, the dialogue progressed toward symbols and eventually neural interfacing. Eliza's fluency with the ship's systems deepened over time. Day 67, the next segment began. Eliza now appeared more drawn, fatigued, but electrified by purpose. The cognitive bridge is stable. I can now access about 12% of the onboard memory bank directly. Her voice trembled slightly with revelation. There are 11 total vessels, distributed across planetary bodies and orbital points in our solar system. They're monitoring posts left by a civilization known as the Architects. Mira leaned closer as her grandmother spoke with conviction, her transformation from pragmatic scientist to impassioned emissary evident. The changes weren't just intellectual. There was a new emotional intensity in her tone, a weight that hinted at discoveries Mira couldn't yet fathom. Unlike Mira's unintentional awakening of the ship, Eliza had methodically pursued a deeper integration with the alien systems. The Architects consider Earth an anomaly, she explained in a later log. Our technological evolution accelerated at nearly 3 times the expected pace, while our social development trails far behind. They find the disparity, troubling. The recordings chronicled months of Eliza's solitary engagement with the vessel. She spoke of the Architect's Civilization A, alliance of organic and artificial minds spanning multiple star systems, united not by governments, but by shared knowledge and values. They don't conquer, Eliza emphasized. They watch, they learn, and sometimes they extend an invitation. Earth, she revealed, was nearing a threshold, one that could earn humanity that invitation. provided it avoided specific developmental failures. 6 months into the logs, the tone shifted. Government satellites had finally noticed anomalous patterns in the desert. "I can't let this ship be seized," Eliza stated, her voice firm. "If the wrong people get access, the first thing they'll do is reverse engineer its systems for defense. Or worse offense. That would only prove the architects right about our instability." The next log showed her activating systems Mira hadn't encountered. The vessel can relocate, directing it to a depression that weather models suggest will flood seasonally within 5 years. The ship would submerge and lie dormant till it was awakened by someone carrying a genetic key. She held up a now familiar object. "This pendant contains the quantum protocols. I'll pass it down, quietly. The next generation will carry it until the right moment." Subsequent entries revealed Eliza's careful return to public life. She resumed academic work, married, had a daughter Mira's mother, and kept contact with the ship hidden. "The neural adaptations are inherited," Eliza noted, observing her child playing. "Subtle, incomplete, but present." The ship's interface was designed to accommodate genetic drift across generations. The final entry was dated just weeks before her death. The woman on screen was old, frail, but her eyes gleamed with the same fire Mira remembered. "Mira will find it," she said confidently. "Her skepticism makes her perfect. She won't believe easily. But once she does, she'll follow truth no matter where it leads." She looked into the camera, as if speaking across time. "Ask questions always. The architects don't want obedience. They want partners. That's why I chose you." The screen faded. Silence filled the chamber. Mira stood motionless, absorbing the cascade of revelations about her grandmother, about herself. So many moments in her life suddenly clicked into place. Her affinity for abstract systems, dreams laced with incomprehensible symbols. The unshakable sense that something hidden had been waiting for her. "Did she suffer?" Mira asked. "There was a discomfort during neural synchronization," the interface replied. "No long-term harm." Eliza Bishop lived a full human life, with enhanced cognitive function. Mira turned from the display, thoughts racing. "And what's expected of me now?" First, to initiate information exchange between the architects and humanity. Later, to help design a contact framework. "I'm not a diplomat," Mira said. "I'm an archaeologist." Eliza Bishop was a geologist, the interface countered. "What matters is compatibility and ethical integrity." Outside, additional military units had arrived. Troops surrounded the ship at a distance. Professor Takahashi was in intense discussion with suited officials. "They'll try to take the vessel," Mira murmured. "Turn it into a weapon. That's what we do." "A known risk," the interface said. "This vessel cannot be operated. Without compatible DNA, attempted disassembly will trigger molecular dispersal. Dissolution into inert particles. A final safeguard." Mira stood quietly, calculating. She could walk away, but the military would swarm. Or she could accept her inheritance and try to steer it the right way. "If I do this, I want guarantees. No secrecy. Open scientific review, no military exclusivity. Those parameters match the ones set by Eliza Bishop." "Accepted." Mira inhaled, then nodded. "I'll serve for now. But I want to form a diverse international advisory body. No lone actors." Proved. The ship's systems surged to life. It expanded across the chamber. 3-dimensional maps, alien schematics, and layered linguistics floated in the air. Initial data prepared, the interface announced. Recommendation: establish secure civilian-led research facility before full transmission. "Need global cooperation," Mira muttered. "It's not national secrecy." Eliza Bishop anticipated that. "This," the interface said, opening a compartment, "is a diplomatic bridge." Its inside lay a tablet-like device, clearly alien in design. It contains introductory knowledge, enough to gain scientific buy-in without endangering misuse. Mira took it, recognizing the elegant compromise. "Time to meet your colleagues," the interface said with a faint smile. Mira returned the pendant to her neck, gathered the device, and stepped toward the exit. As she reached the threshold, The interface spoke one last time. Eliza believed our species' strength is its adaptability. She would be proud of your choice. Mira hesitated. Can you keep her face? I want people to see her. You wish she stepped onto the walkway? Below, military and science officials waited. Takahashi waved. The world had changed and she with it. We are not alone, she would say. We've just been invited to the table. Behind her, the vessel hummed, timeless, waiting, alive.